He slashed government spending. He insulted the previous pope. He goes around with a chainsaw and called the central bank a criminal organization. And yet, Wall Street loves him. I'm David Feliba. I'm a financial journalist in Buenos Aires, and this is Argentina Explained. Bidding once, twice shy. Argentina has a long history of attracting investments and disappointing them twice as much. For the one part, left-wing Peronistas, famous for their government spending and their state-centric policies, have certainly spooked investors. On the other hand, efforts by center-right governments in Argentina to put the financial affairs in order have clearly failed. Remember the Mauricio Macri experience? Back in 2016, after over a decade of Peronistas administrations, investors flocked back to Argentina, a G20 country rich in natural resources, oil, gas, agriculture. Certainly, there's potential for Argentina to attract investors. Mauricio Macri, from 2016 to 2019, he certainly tried, and he was trying to turn the page on Argentina in the face of global investors. The bonds rallied, the stocks were up more than double in price. There's a lot of enthusiasm in markets with Argentina, who is suddenly the new kid on the block, the talk of the town for asset managers who seek emerging market assets around the world. But the experiment sadly did not last, and it collapsed abruptly when the government sought an IMF bailout after a midterm election in 2018. There's a very famous phrase in Argentina which pretty much goes like, El que se quemó con leche ve a la vaca y llora, which literally translates to whoever was ever burnt with milk sees a cow and starts crying. Global investors in Argentina have been burnt more than once. So when the relatively unknown chainsaw-wielding libertarian Javier Milei rose to the presidency in 2023, many around the world were not betting much on him. So what happened? What changed? What drove Wall Street to change their perspective on this 50-something economist who all of a sudden went from TV shows where he ranted against politicians to the first top job in Argentina? This is the story of Javier Milei and how in his first year and a half in the presidency, he has been able to change the perception in Wall Street and in many financial circles of his administration. So what is driving investors' new shot, new excitement in Argentina? We have seen it. Stocks have rallied again, more than doubling in price. Bonds have gone from pretty low levels to more decent valuations. But then again, what is different? Why has Milei been able to convince the toughest crowd in the world? First of all, Milei is actually doing, not promising, what he said on the campaign trail. The chainsaw is actually a symbol of the massive cuts he's been delivering on the state spending. It's hard to imagine a candidate running on a campaign for the presidency of Argentina on promises to slash spending for austerity. Speaking of suffering, in Argentina, a country famous for its overspending, its series of defaults, its almost 24 agreements with the IMF, which all of them have failed in the past. In his first year in office, Milei was able to turn a fiscal deficit, which has been running for many years in the country, to a fiscal surplus. He has cut spending across the board, and he has also been able to bring inflation down from very dangerous triple-digit levels back when he took office in late 2023 to more manageable levels right now of between 25-30% at a yearly rate. Sure, that's still extremely high, and Argentina has loads of problems to still contest with. However, the fact that he has been able to make some improvements in the economy, which are pretty clear, has convinced Wall Street that maybe this time, this guy could be different. When I interviewed Javier Milei about a year ago when he was on a campaign trail, he told me in person, I am even tougher than the IMF itself. There should be no reason why they wouldn't like me. And it appears to be the case. Argentina has passed all of them reviews, has gained some leeway in their financial goals, some waivers, and they seem to be working pretty well together. But what's missing? Will Milei lose his shine eventually? Will he be able to sustain the fiscal discipline he has committed so strongly to? Milei, who is an outsider to politics, does not have enough support in Congress to back many of his major reforms. Sure, he has been able to turn around a few pieces of legislation which have been critical to his administration. But in order for the economy to keep growing and enter into a second stage, there's more to be done. Milei has no majority in Congress. right before the midterm elections in 2025, he had less than 15% in each chamber of Congress, both the lower house and the Senate. Part of his success is attributed as well to the fact that the opposition has pretty much lost its way for the time being and is regrouping after a surprising election in 2023. There's no clear opposition leader, and Milei is taking advantage of that void. Then there's the case of whether Argentinians will continue to support him and his austerity measures, which, even though tough medicine was pretty much in order for the Argentine economy, the reality is that poverty is still pretty high. There are challenges on the ground as well, and there's only so much austerity you can produce without real economic growth. He still has a voter approval rate of around 45-50%, which is pretty high considering what he's done with the chainsaw. However, it is not clear whether that will hold throughout his tenure as president of Argentina. The real reason why Milei was elected in the first place, in my opinion, is of course inflation is a factor. It has been a major headache in Argentinians' minds for as long as I can remember. But that said, a second thing would be real economic growth. There has been no economic growth in GDP per capita on a sustained fashion since 2010. That's almost 15 years of booms and busts, and many people in their 30s and their 40s have not seen real economic growth pretty much in their entire lifetimes. But the big question is here, there's no doubt Wall Street loves Javier Milei. I mean, he speaks the language. He wants to put the affairs in order. He wants to cut the deficit. He wants to pay back their debts. He wants to earn back its reputation. So it's pretty much doing everything that Wall Street likes and appreciates in a country. And for the time being, they have certainly rewarded that with assets ballooning and bonds going through the roof. But the big question here is not Milei's commitment, which appears to be a rock, to be honest, but whether the Argentinians will continue to support his austerity measures throughout the future. Argentina's addiction with the fiscal deficit is mind-blowing. From the past 123 years of Argentine's economic history, Argentina has run a fiscal deficit in 113 of them. That's over 90% of the time, which helps me illustrate how rare it is to have in Argentina a president that seeks to build a fiscal surplus. Will he have the sufficient political maneuver to pull out major reforms like tax reform, pensioners reforms, job reforms? There are major things in the Argentina economy that need to be done in order to attract new foreign direct investment and not only financial flow. What if growth doesn't show up? What if the austerity measures hit a wall and there's just not much more he can do on that front? What if the pain gets worse and Argentines are no longer tolerating his economic recipe? Milei is selling pain right now, but the truth is Argentinians are expecting results pretty fast now. Milei's shock therapy is already biting, with protests now routine. The stock surge of 2024 has cooled in 2025 as investors await the midterms and a clearer read on his political backing. Bottom line, Wall Street has fallen for Argentina before, but this time around, they may feel there's a chance that this is different. Milei looks as committed to the fiscal discipline as he was on the day one of his administration, and Argentines, for the time being, are supporting it. But then again, this country has a habit of breaking reformers throughout its history. So will this time be different? Will Wall Street affair with Javier Milei continue through the next few years? That remains to be seen. Thank you very much for watching. I'm David Feliba, and this is Argentina Explained.